Hi, everyone. I'm super excited today to introduce all of you to Kirsten Langston, who's an amazing psychic, intuitive, who I have known not personally, but have followed her for years and finally had a reading with her recently. And she's definitely the real deal. And I think she's a fascinating person. And I wanted to talk to her about her life and how she became so good at what she does. So welcome. So happy to have you here.
Thank
So
you.
you,
I'm so happy to be here.
so you're in California, right?
Yeah, Bay Area.
Okay. So first of all, I want to start with how did you figure out that you had these amazing psychic abilities? Because I know it's never easy when you're a child and you're picking up things, you don't really understand it. So what were some of your earliest psychic memories?
It's funny. I never thought I was different. I thought everybody had what I had. So it was never unusual to me. It was never weird to me. One of the biggest things, so I don't remember this, but my mom tells this story. When I was like 2 years old, 3 years old, we lived in this old Victorian, and I was playing or something, but I was stepping. It was like I was going around something. I was stepping around something, and my mom goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I don't want to run into that mean Santa Claus man standing right there." So that was one of the first things that they told me about. With everything else, I had an extra sense and I used it, but I thought everybody had it. So if I walked into a room as a kid, I would be like, "Oh, this person's mad, this person's sad." I thought everybody could do it. So when it came to premonitions, I just knew stuff, but I never thought it was weird or unnatural. And I would never say, even to my parents, it was just like, "I know this is a thing that's going to happen." It wasn't until I got in high school that I was vocalizing it. Like, my parents were going to buy this house, and I warned them, like, "Don't buy the house, don't buy the house, don't buy the house." I just don't have a good feeling. I think I was 13. So I was
That's
like
good.
a freshman. "Don't buy the house, don't buy the house." My mom's like, "We're not going to buy this house." She's like, because they put in like multiple offers. I'm like, "Don't buy this specific, like, don't do it." So she says, "I'll bet you $20 we're not going to buy this house." I said, "I bet you $20 we will." So they ended up buying the house I told them not to buy, which ended up being a money pit and not built correctly. It had a lot of problems, and then to top it off, it was extremely haunted. So, and I mean like demonically crazy, just wild stuff going on. You'd hear taps on your window when the window's 8 feet above the ground, stuff like that, drawers opening and closing. We were sitting there, and my mom had this big heavy buffet, and we were all watching TV, and all of a sudden every single drawer on the buffet all shot open at the same time. I mean, just wild stuff like that. So that's when I started really getting into it. And then I found a deck of tarot cards. I wanted it. I just, for whatever reason, I was like, "I want those." And so I started playing with those. And then in my junior year at high school, I had a religion project to do because I went to a Catholic high school. So I had to do a real world religion project. And every kid in my class just chose Rastafarianism because they wanted to talk about smoking weed. So I was like, "Well, I don't want to, that stuff's boring to me." But I literally went out of my way to marry tarot cards and paganism, which are not at all the same thing. But I was like, "This is a religion." So I read tarot cards as my project because you had to do a demonstration. So I went into class and I read tarot cards in a Catholic high school, if you can imagine this. And they were like great with it. And it was
Wow.
really wild. So my world religion teacher, he was a former Jesuit priest. He was involved in the real true story of The Exorcist. He lived in St. Louis at the time. He was at the place where, the priests that were going over to that house to deal with that little boy. I mean, so it was like, there's all this weird stuff. But anyway, I read the tarot cards. And at lunch that day, for a week, maybe 2 weeks afterward, I'm sitting at lunch, and this person comes over to me and they're like, "Oh, can you do my cards?" And I'm like, "Okay." And the next thing you know, I've got a line. I had a literal line of kids wrapped around the building waiting to get readings from me. So
Jeez.
that's right. That's what kicked it off. And it was crazy because I was not a popular kid. I was bullied, not a lot, but I was bullied a lot. The mean girls did not like me. They went after me hard. And those are the same people standing in line to get readings from me.
Wow. So it probably saved your life.
Maybe. Possibly, but yeah, so that's how I got started with the readings, but the psychic stuff, it's always been, and it's never been unusual. My whole family is pretty psychic, so it was always normal.
So you believe that it's something that can be genetic, that's passed on to the next generation, having the gift?
I have to think it must be
Yeah.
because my grandmother on my grandpa's side, she used to have premonitions. She would wake up in the middle of the night to a she thought it was the Virgin Mary in her living room. There would be a woman all dressed in blue, and she would go in the living room, and the woman would tell her everything that was going to happen that she needed to be warned about. It's going to be a bad year. It's going to be a good year. You need to watch out for this kid. You need to watch out for that kid. My grandmother, extremely psychic. Once my uncle didn't come home, and she didn't even know where he was. Immediately calls the Coast Guard and says he's on the Napa River and his boats run aground and you have to go out and rescue him, which is exactly what happened. But she had no knowledge of that. So
Wow.
yeah, it's and then my dad always very Irish, my dad. He claimed he was born with the call, which means that you have the second sight. But I
Right.
swear to you, unless it was very subtle, that man never had anything second sight about him.
Or funny. Have you ever worked with the police?
No, I don't bill myself that way. I'm not the best at finding lost things. That is not one of my strong suits.
What do you think
I
your specialty is? What, because I want people to learn all about what you do. So what is the best thing that you think you're good at?
the best thing I'm good at is people. It's reading people. It's premonitions, it's future predictions for sure. But and the thing that I really love too is looking at people. So one of the best ways to utilize my services and also advice. I have to say my top three. All right, so my top three are premonitions, really good advice, but reading people. So if you have a new person in your life, new boss, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, partner, and you're like, I don't know what's going on, can you just give me, I can look at that person and I will nail it every time. I've never been wrong. I have never been wrong reading a person ever.
I believe you because I know you have this incredible ability and I know it's possible to be that accurate. So that's very rare. Don't you think it's rare? I mean, I don't know many people who have, I mean, I say I'm 95% accurate and I'm not bragging when I say it, it's just the truth. And when you say it too, I just know it's true. You just have this gift. So what would you say is one of the most meaningful readings you've ever done for someone? Have you ever totally changed someone's life or
Yes.
saved them from
Yeah.
something? Can you tell us some
I've
stories?
had a few. I've had
Okay,
a
good.
few of those. I've had a few of those. One of the ones um, that I'm comfortable sharing is because, quadruple Scorpio, I'm all about the confidentiality. But um, I have a friend who at the time was not a friend. She started out as a client and I started reading for her at somebody's bridal shower.
Mhm.
And so it was wild. I was just in this room and these people are cycling in, cycling in, cycling in. I must have done 20 readings that day. Like it was wild. So she comes in, she's about my age, and we're talking and I say, look, there's this, you're in danger. You are in danger. So we're talking about a relationship. And I said, this man's going to try to kill you. This man is going to try to kill you. And I said, he's going to come to the house. He's going to have a weapon the very next time he comes to your house. Because he would always show up at our house. She had to get a restraining order. It was a whole thing. I said, the next time he comes to your house, immediately call the police. Don't let him in. Don't talk to him. Don't engage with him. Immediately call the police. So the next time he came to her house, showed up. He had a weapon. He knocked on the door real sweet. Oh baby, let me in the house. Blah 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 blah. She remembered the reading. She immediately called 911. They showed up, and when they showed up, they found a knife on him, and he confessed that he was going to come to the house and stab her to death. So she hit me up and she said, "If I would be dead if it weren't for you. I would be dead because I would have let him in the house."
So in that sense, you sensed his energy, you knew there was this potential, but what about if you're doing a reading for someone and there's something negative, like you would never tell someone they're going to die, or like, how do you deal with,
No,
yeah, see, I'm very careful too. Like, I don't believe it's our job to say things
no,
like, I think it
agreed.
scares people. So you talk about just ethically how you
Yeah.
deal with all that. I think that's really important. I think a lot of people don't understand what a really true psychic can do in terms of helping you. It's like, it's like the fastest shortcut to get to a solution and understanding about something.
It was, it was like 20 years of therapy in an hour. They're like, you just now, and you do the same thing, Leslie. You're the same
Right.
way. I mean, it's like
Right.
20 years of therapy, we can do it in an hour, and you make so much progress so quickly. With the difficult stuff, it's weird. Ever since I was in the hospital and on the deathbed, the near death experience, I don't think anything is negative or difficult anymore. It's a weird, it's a me thing. But when I see things for other people and I know it's going to cause anxiety or fear, there's two things I do. And I do this with divorce. I'll do it with sickness, right? The first thing I say is, how much do you want to know? I put it in their hands. How much do you want to know? I see everything, and I can see the bumps and things that the challenges and all of that. How much do you want to know? And if somebody says I want to know everything, particularly with a relationship, I will say, okay, this is everything. When it comes to health, I always say, I'm not a doctor. I'm not a therapist. I can't treat or diagnose anybody. I can also be wrong. I want to make sure everybody knows that. I am never 100% right 100% of the time. It's not possible. You can't be. Nobody can be.
Mhm.
So I always front load everybody with that information, because I want you to know, hey, it's entirely possible. I'm having an off day. You know what I mean? I don't want them to think, oh God, Kirsten said I'm going to go home and die. So I want to make sure everybody has that information. But when I see something hard like that, if it's preventable, because I can tell, you look at it, you can tell. If it's preventable, I will say, okay, here are the things you need to do to avoid this. That's number one. If it is not preventable, 9 times out of 10, I will say, listen, there's something difficult coming, and here are the ways you can mitigate it. It depends on the client. If the client seems pretty chill and they can handle shit, I'll be like, okay, you're gonna have a heart attack. Like I'll see it. There's something wrong with the heart. You're gonna have something going on health-wise with the heart. If they're kind of all over the place, then I'll say, I see a health issue, and it looks like, these are the ways that you can handle this. These are the ways you can mitigate this. If I see a loved one dying, I always make sure to tell people, death is not death. It's not real. It's not real. I don't know how else to put it. It's not real. The grief will be very real. The fact that this person is no longer accessible to you on the material plane is very real. But the idea that they're going to go away forever and you're never going to see them again is not real. And 9 times out of 10, when people cross over, I would say 10 times out of 10, when people cross over, they're happy to do it. They're like, yep, done with that crap, now I get to go be chill. So I had to learn, because I had a lot of psychics, and I don't know if you've had this experience, but I've had a lot of psychics tell me horrible things with no, there's no like cushioning. They're just stream of consciousness telling you this and this and this and this and this is going to happen to you. And they don't offer advice. They don't try to help you. They don't tell you can avoid it. It's just like, here you go. Here's all this horrible stuff. Sorry. And
That's
sometimes
what
you don't even get.
Yeah. So I've never actually recommended a psychic before. You're the first one. And it's because
Oh,
I know that you will treat my clients and friends and people the right way. And that is really important to me, because I don't want anything negative to be said to anyone. I think we're here to make them feel better. And even if I see things in the chart about health, I'm like, okay, this is just a fact. Let's deal with the fact and work around it. And you have good tools and tips too. It's not just like spewing information and say adios to them. That's not what you do.
absolutely. Yeah, you can't hand somebody something and say, here's this challenging thing. And a lot of people they don't present it as a challenge. They present it as like disaster. Here's this disastrous thing. I don't have anything to help you. Like, it's going to happen in the next 2 to 3 years. So, you get this range where you're like, okay, so for 2 to 3 years, you have this anxiety, this thing living in the back of your mind that it's going to happen. You can't avoid it. And oh, well. And I've had that happen, and it's awful.
It's an awful thing. I had a client once go to a psychic, not a psychic, a Vedic astrologer in India, and he predicted that her one and only son would die in 3 years in a car accident. So she lived for 3 years freaking out. And guess what? He died in 3 years, just when he said, in a car accident. I don't believe that it's all we have free will. But the fact that he said that, maybe she was thinking about it so much it might have manifested it. I don't know what you think about that, but that is so awful to do to someone. He just took
Yeah.
away 3 years of her happiness, and then a lifetime of losing her son. I mean, it was just awful.
Yeah. One of the things I do tell my clients, especially with the older parents, I'll say, go spend as much time as possible as you can with this person.
Yeah.
Go soak them up with my own. And I learned a lot from these guides, whatever they are. I don't know. I always call it the wisdom because I don't know if it's inner or if it's outer. I really don't know. All I know is it's smarter than me. And I learned a lot from them. So when the wisdom predicted the downfall of my marriage, they didn't say, "Oh well, tough shit." Like they didn't, it was like they said, "Enjoy what you've got right now because it's going to end." And they've said the same thing multiple times. Enjoy what you've got right now because it's going to end. So it puts me in the present moment. So that's one of the things I have learned to do with my clients is nothing lasts forever. Nothing. I mean, it's inevitable. Something's going to end at some point. So I'm always making sure to tell them, like, this situation will change. Soak it up. Soak it up. And if it's a hard situation, a challenging situation, then, it's exactly the same thing. This situation is going to change. So don't worry.
Right. That's why I think psychologically you've done so much work on yourself, and you and I are both huge fans of EMDR. And can you talk about that, how it's changed your life? Because I tell probably 80% of my clients to do it. And I just want them to hear from you what you think it's like, why do you think it works, and how it's helped you?
Yeah, I think Leslie, I think it's the best thing that was ever invented ever. And it's not woo woo. I mean, this is a scientific psychological procedure basically. So I had really, really bad CPTSD, really, really bad from multiple, it's complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So multiple things happened in a very short period of time and I couldn't catch my breath. And I was in conventional therapy, I was in talk therapy and it didn't do a thing. Um, so I learned 4 years ago, I was like, EMDR, that's interesting. It was 2019, EMDR. And I thought, maybe I should look into that because I mean, my anxiety would get so bad. It would that would wake me up in the middle of the night. And it's free floating anxiety. It will find whatever it wants to attach to, but it's just constant. It's present. And it's because your nervous system is dysregulated. I mean, I would, the jump scares, like somebody came up behind me. Ooh, I mean, I'd scream the bloody house down. Now it doesn't, I'm fine. Nothing really, but I would have that. I couldn't watch certain movies because it would just I would just get really anxious. There were days I couldn't drive because I'm like, I'll crash the car in this state of mind. I mean, it was bad, really, really bad. And mind you, all of this is going on while I'm doing my YouTube channel, like while I'm building my business, So I heard about it. I found a woman that does it. And it was during the pandemic, so it was all virtual. But I started to do it, and I will tell you within a matter of probably 2 months, every single symptom I had of CPTSD was gone. Absolutely
That was
gone.
that
And I
was
felt like
fast.
myself again.
That was
It was
really
fast. She even said that. Yeah, she even said it was really, really fast. I was cycling through stuff. And what they do is, you can't, a lot of people, I've heard people, oh, I do it on YouTube. You can't do it on YouTube. You have to do it with a professional. You cannot just watch a thing go back and forth on a screen and think that you're doing something. You're not. There's a process. There's kind of an onboarding process that you have to do. They set you up for success, but essentially what it is, you take a memory, something that's stuck in your head, something that you're kind of fixated on, that you want to work on, whatever it is. And as you process it, you can do a hand where you do this, or you move your eyes back and forth. You can do both. But for whatever reason, it helps the brain process the memory so that it doesn't continuously bother you anymore.
yeah, it's just brilliant. And a lot of people don't know about it.
Yeah, a lot of people don't, or they think it's not real, or it doesn't work, or it's woo woo. It works, and most people I know that have had it, I think every single person I know that have had it, that it works for them. I have never met one person that was like it didn't work.
So tell me more about the entities, spirits, groups that are helping you. You call them wisdom. What do you know about them? Have you ever gotten any sense?
Yeah, well, it's wild. So when I started to really get into this stuff around 2012, I first on YouTube, I billed myself as the skeptical psychic because I knew psychic stuff was real. That was all natural to me. But there's other stuff I was like, that's not real. That's not real. That's not real. This is, and one of the things I really thought was BS was channeling. I was like, that's crap. So it's jokes on me, right? Um, I was reading a lot of Deepak Chopra. I know people have opinions on this guy, and I think he's just like, a lot of people don't like him. I love the books. Anything he writes, I will read. It makes me feel good. He has good advice. But he said, if you want to talk to like spirit guides, just start stream of consciousness writing. So that's what I started doing. When at first nothing happened. And then one day I got kind of a click and I switched off and something else switched on. And I didn't even know what I had written until, and it was pages. It was like 10 pages, handwritten 10 pages. I didn't even know what I had written until I was done. And then I had to go back and I read it and oh my God. And it was chock full of just smart stuff. Really, again, that's why I say the wisdom, because it's not Kirsten for sure.
Yeah.
If it is, it's some deep, deep, deep hidden part of me. And also predictions. So I'm going, okay. And they started to come true. So I'm going, oh, wow. Okay. So I started doing that again, stream, and I would just do it once a week just to get the practice, do it once a week. I would start to zone out, bop, 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 bop. And then one day, they were kind of talking to me like I was getting the information without having to write it down. And I was like, okay, this is new. And that's when, and it was only with me. It wasn't with clients. And I would ask clients, do you want me to try to zone out and do some automatic writing for you? And they would always say no. They wanted, the
Wow.
clients I had in the beginning just wanted like, will I be rich? Will I get married? Will I have a girlfriend, boyfriend? Blah, blah, blah. I mean, it was just that kind of stuff. How many kids will I have? It was fortune teller stuff, which I don't really do. I don't do fortune teller stuff. I am not that kind of a reader. I will
Thank
tell you
you for
things
saying
about the
that.
future.
Thank you. That is why
Uh,
I'm talking to you. Thank you for saying that because I'm not a fortune teller either. And I know you're not.
right.
And it's really important that people understand that you're reading energy. That's all.
Yeah, there's a difference. Fortune tellers, it's that's the kind of thing you see at a state fair, and that's the kind of stuff where they kind of just spew stuff at you. This, and this is going to happen. And then they'll tell you stuff about your past that's typically pretty accurate so that, you know that they're a real psychic. Which is fine, but I don't like those kinds of readings for myself. I don't find value in them. Entertainment value, sure, but I'm not really here to entertain in with private clients. I'm here, I want to help you. I want you to live your best life. I want you to be happy. So with the wisdom, they started talking more and more and more. And then one day they told me that they were a collective that I was a part of. And the name was Metaganges, which means great braid in whatever language. And that's another thing. This is the creepiest thing. That's how I knew they were real. They would talk to me in Greek, Latin, Hindi, Arabic, and it would be phonetic. So I would write it phonetically, and then I'd have to go figure out what in the hell what language it was and what they were saying to me. It was always a language. It always made sense. They got mad at me one day and it was a full paragraph that was all in Latin. Usually it's a phrase here or there sprinkled in with a sentence, a couple phrases. It was all in Latin and I had to go, and again, phonetically, because I don't speak these languages. I don't speak any of these languages. I had to go look them up. I looked up the whole paragraph and the whole thing was like, don't you be ungrateful. I mean, they just went off. So, I mean, that's what I've got with them. Again, it could be internal. It could very much be internal. I honestly don't know. It's never really, it's just, oh, you're a part of it, period, point blank. Okay, great. But yeah, the other languages, I forgot to mention that. That's when I was like, oh, this is a mind blower. I mean, I would be getting this stuff. It would be, English, 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 which is my first language, and then Greek, 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 English, English, English. So the middle of the sentence would be this Greek phrase, and I'd have to go look it up. I wouldn't know it was Greek. So I'm writing these things on the internet trying to figure out what could this possibly mean. That was the mind blower. That was the mind blower when they were doing stuff in other languages, which they don't really do anymore. I think it was kind of a parlor trick. in a way to be like, Kirsten, it's real, moron. Like, like, Kirsten,
Oh,
this
so
is
you
the real
think it
deal.
was their way of having you do the research on what they were saying to prove that they were accurate, that they were,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Because maybe
And
you had
and
some
that
doubt. You were
that
skeptical.
I was channeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, sometimes you go, am I just making this up? Like, am I just, but I don't know ancient Latin. I don't know ancient Greece. I definitely don't know Hindi. I certainly don't know Arabic. I mean, not even little words. If they were speaking to me in Spanish, I'd be like, okay, well, Kirsten, that's just you. But it was wild. That stuff is wild to me.
A lot of this stuff cannot be explained. And so what you just said about, I was just sending an email out to some of my students about how nervous I was in the beginning when I started doing readings. Like I thought, who the hell do I think I am that I'm going to be able to tell people about themselves from reading this chart? Like,
Yeah.
who the heck? You got a lot of nerve thinking you can do that.
Yeah.
And then I don't know how we get over it, but I guess the more we realize we're right and we've helped people, then you start trusting it more. And now I just totally trust it. Like you totally trust the wisdom because I trust you probably trust them and I trust the astrology more than I trust myself.
Oh yeah, 100%, 100%. I especially, and you can see this on my YouTube channel, because I do those are fun readings. Those are just fun readings for the public, but I do readings every Thursday. I'm on a live stream. And sometimes I will get one thing and I'm like, no, this isn't a thing. Because people want me to, they want me to run celebrities. It's fun, it's silly. Celebrities, politics, whatever. And I'll get one thing, but my cards will get another thing. And then I'm going, okay, so who do I defer to here? Am I misinterpreting the cards and the wisdom is giving me the right answer? You know what I mean? Because that's, to me, the only time I've really messed up is when I looked at the cards and I saw something that I misinterpreted. So I always, if the wisdom is coming with something, I'm like, okay, we'll go to them. We're going with them. 9 times out of 10, I'll go with them over cards. If the cards say something different, most of the time the cards do not. But every once in a while, I'll get some cards, and the wisdom's like, no, it's the opposite of that. So it's hard to just trust me because I have been wrong. I'm not infallible. I've been wrong for myself. And
Well, the
also, and
worst
you
is
know
you're
this,
doing it for yourself is the hardest.
yeah. And also, I have seen people change their own readings. I think there's so much free will. And a
Yes.
lot of people will, the act of getting a reading, whether it's from me or from you, they can, just that can change their whole course. Just that.
Oh, exactly. I mean, literally, I have many, many people who I could honestly say I've changed their life in 1 hour. And what is that worth to people? And I know you do the same thing. And I just feel like we're both here to use our gifts to be of service. And as long as we're helping people, we'll be protected. So I want to talk about that because you almost died. You talked a little bit about the hospital thing you had. What do you
Yeah.
think that was about? And I know that you're protected. I know I'm protected, but what the hell? Why did you have to go through that, do you think?
Um, so I knew, so this was November of 2022, and I had just gone up to Humboldt, which is, big tall redwoods for those of you that don't know Northern California. I mean, it's just middle of nowhere kind of thing. My brother lives there. So we were hanging out with my brother, and I had a premonition when I was there that either me or my mom were going to get sick and it was going to be really bad. And I just went, okay, well, hope it's me. And that right there could have just changed my fate.
You
Because
said
she's
it so.
she's she's in her 70s. I don't want her getting sick. So it was a very fleeting thought. And actually 6 weeks before I got up to Humboldt, I was like, man, I am tired. I was walking my dog. I'm like, man, I am bone tired. I am bone tired. And another little thought came in. Oh, don't worry, you can rest in the hospital. And I at first I didn't think a thing of it. And then I went, Kirsten,
Yes.
that's weird.
Yeah.
Right. I'm
That
like,
is-
that's weird. Hospital. What the hell? So I just, whatever, weirdo. I'm having weird thoughts. Okay, fine. And then I have this premonition. But again, same thing. It was like very fleeting. I was busy doing something. We were out hiking or something. And I just get this fleeting thought of either you or your mom's going to get sick and it's going to be kind of bad. And I was like, I hope it's me. Just kept hiking. Right. So I get home. And long story short, I got food poisoning, which led to appendicitis, which didn't hurt to the point where I felt I had appendicitis. I was like, yeah, this is really bad food poisoning. So the appendix burst. I wasn't in enough pain to think that I needed to go to the hospital. The appendix burst. I didn't know it. So then I start getting this giant abscess. I go to urgent care and they say, "Oh, you're just bloated. You're just bloated from like the food poisoning."
The
And I was like,
medical,
"Oh,
what happened to you medically was so scary. Yeah.
it's
Go ahead.
terrifying." So I go home and I'm like, "This is bad. I mean, I'm not sleeping. I can't eat." And I'm going, "Okay, So the 2 days later, I go back to urgent care and I was like, "Man, something is wrong." And the doctor says to me, "Well, your sodium's so low, you're going to have a seizure. So I think you need to go to the ER." Again, no mention of the giant abscess. They were like, "Yep, just bloated." So that I was still being misdiagnosed. They'd done x-rays and everything. So before I go to the ER, I call my mom and say, "Hey, the guy says we got to go to the ER." I clean my entire house. I take a shower. I'm dying. I am actively dying. I have sepsis at this point. Okay. Like, I mean, this is the wildest thing. So we get to the ER, we wait in the ER, we get to the thing, they're doing this, the exam or whatever, and they're like, "Well, you either have cancer," always. Why is it always you either have cancer or XYZ? "You either have cancer or your appendix burst." And I was like, "Okay, well, fix me up," because I got tickets to go see Dave Chappelle. And I there for tomorrow, and just fix me up, because I mean, I did not I felt like hell, but I wasn't like thinking, "Oh God, I'm dying." They goes, "No, we have to admit you." I'm like, "Are you kidding me? Are you really admitting me to the hospital?" Yes. So the whole time I'm in there, I was in there for 9 days. I never felt like I was dying. I never felt like I was in danger. I never felt weak. I was irritated. I was like, "Just fix this thing." And they finally realized, okay, it's an abscess. And because I'm a kidney donor, I only have one kidney, and it was like starting to encroach on the kidney. And they were like, "This is not good. She has sepsis." So I had, I mean, I am like this close to death's door. Um, don't know it. I'm demanding they feed me. I'm like, "I'm really hungry. Can you guys just send us it?" They're like, "No." Unbeknownst to me, they wouldn't let me eat because they thought they were going to have to perform emergency surgery and remove everything, like intestines, colon, the whole deal. And I was just going to be like disabled forever. And the only reason they didn't do it is because I was demanding food and because I was acting okay. I was walking in that hospital, Jesus, 30 to 40 minutes a day. The minute I got in there, I was like, "I'm not going to lay in this bed." That's what saved me. My attitude and my energy is what saved me. They told me that flat out.
When did they figure out you had a burst appendix? It took them days to figure it out?
It took them days. It took them days.
This is like really, really scary. Like that, I mean, the whole thing. And then during that whole time, did you have the wisdom talk to you, or were you able to, or were
So
you panicked?
this is wild to me. I had zero psychic ability. Zero. I had nothing. I mean, and I think part of it too is hospitals, they're very cringy for a psychic usually. Like, they are not the best place. I don't like going to them just on the regular. So I think that was a huge part of it. But I knew I was fine. That's the only thing I knew. I mean, I knew it. I knew. I mean, these doctors. I had 6 different doctors. They're coming. The infectious disease doctor. The surgeon. I had all these people, and they kept saying, "Ah, we think it's cancer," and I was like, "It's not cancer." Like, I just knew. So it wasn't even like the psychic. It's like when I was a kid and I just knew stuff. It was that was turned on. So it wasn't like I was reading people. I just knew, and I was like, "It's not cancer." And then it was, "Well, we don't know if you're going to make it." I'm like, "No, I'm going to make it." Like, it was no big deal to me. I was like, I'm going to be out of here. I'm going to be out of here. And the purpose of it, honestly, I will say, when I got out of there, because it really was a prolonged near-death experience, I just didn't realize it.
Right.
I didn't realize it until the last 2 days I was there, and the doctor said, "We thought you were going to die. Good thing." And I'm like, "So for the last 7 days, you thought I was dying. You didn't tell me. You didn't tell my mother. You didn't. My mother's coming every day. You told no one," which that was scary to me, because I would want to know. I would want other people to know. But they do say that when you tell people in those situations, that they might just drop dead because they start to believe it. So maybe not. But I got out of there and I realized that, this is silly, but like, I have no attachment to life anymore. Like, it killed the attachment. It killed it. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but all this stuff that was so important. I was in the middle of this god awful dispute with my ex-husband, which I'm still in the middle of, But, and it was just like, I was just freaking out about it. I had just gotten divorced. I lost every friend I had that I had made throughout that marriage. They all went with him. So I was very lonely. I was at first scrambling, trying to keep these friendships going. I lost his family completely, my nieces, like everybody's gone. And it was devastating to me. And when I came and I was working so hard, with my business, really trying to keep the business going, and trying to, having two incomes for 15 years, all of a sudden I'm down to one, you know, and I got out of that hospital and I was like, it'll all be fine. I mean, I don't know, it killed something in me, something that needed to die. So I'm fine with it, but it'll all be fine. It'll be fine. And if it's not fine, it's still fine.
Right. So it gave you
Everything
some
is
kind of
temporary.
wisdom or detachment that probably makes you a better reader now too, after what you went through.
Oh yeah, 100%. And also, I've never had a fear of death ever. It's never bothered me. I don't know if that's a Scorpio thing or what, but when I got out of there, I was like, it really doesn't bother me. I'm like, I could drop dead tomorrow. I'm fine with it. It doesn't bother me, and it doesn't bother me for other people. There's something, and I know I was close. Looking back, you're like, oh damn, Kirsten. In the moment, I was like, I'm fine. Everything's fine. I'm not going to die. But looking back, there's something about the energy. I was like, shoot, I was really close to death. And there was something about it, something about just touching that energy, just all of that stuff starts to make sense to me. Like I just got it. And I was like, oh, okay. I randomly, I understand the afterlife. I understand how people cross over. I understand how consciousness works. Like it's like all these concepts that were sort of, who knows, it's mystical. It was like instantaneous download. But
Hey, but you know what? There's some reason you're probably being protected there too in some way. I don't know
yeah,
why.
more than
Now,
likely.
there's got to be a reason. So I've got two more questions for you. One is, what do you do to clean yourself psychically, energetically after having a tough reading with somebody?
Oh my God. Okay. So this is another tough lesson for Kirsten. So I was like, that stuff's not real, right? So I would just go and do a reading. I would just go do readings. I would do a little bit of like, okay, I'm over here, you're over here kind of a thing. And I would close down after a reading. So my close down is it's like a child. It's really silly. But after I do a reading, I just go like, okay, closing down. And I clench everything and then I let it go, so I don't carry that person's energy around with me. That was all I was doing.
Mm.
And this is a crazy story. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I just have these crazy stories. So I became the victim of massive psychic attack, which I also thought, like, I was like, oh, it's real, but I didn't realize how really real it was. I mean, I did not realize it. So it was just, crazy stuff. I'm having nightmares every night about this person. I'm thinking of them constantly, and there's no reason to. That kind of a thing. All this really massive bad luck. And in fact, landing in the hospital was kind of the finale of a really big, long run of very bad luck.
Yeah.
That to me, curse, sure, why not? But I do think part of it was kind of the psychic. I was seeing people trying to get rid of this energy because I could feel it. I could feel it was heavy, and it would just get pushed on me and pushed on me.
Yes.
So when I started with that, I was like, man, you got to find some protection, because first of all, this is real. This psychic attack is real. It can't be anything else. It's not in my head. So I started with um black salt under the bed. So that's one of the biggies that I started with. Black salt under the bed. And I was like,
I've never
oh,
even heard
okay.
of black. I don't even know what black salt is.
Yeah, I didn't either. Yeah, it's very witchy, and I've always been into witchy stuff, even as a kid. I remember when my sister and I would be like, let's do a spell. And then we'd be like, oh God, it like something happened. Like we did something. We would all like, oh God, it came true. Just crazy stuff. So I put the black salt under the bed. And that's me. I thought, oh, that's just kid stuff. That's stuff I did as a kid. That's not real.
Right.
And no, it's real. So I started with that, and then I started getting these, Dion Fortune. I always thought was kind of but I found a Dion Fortune book, and there's all this fabulous stuff about psychic defense. So I started employing these tactics, and OMG, they work. I mean, it's insane. So at this
Give
point
me one
now,
example.
yeah, just in life, I do this daily. So I check with a pendulum every day and I ask if I have any negative energies or any energies that require clearing. I check my chakras. I check for any negative energies or entities that might be interfering with me or my life.
Mhm.
And then I clear them. I just straight up clear them, you know, with the pendulum. The pendulum clearing is simple, it's effective. I love it and it does work. Another thing that I do every single day, twice a day, is I strengthen my aura, and I learned that one from Dion Fortune. And that you picture your electric blue aura in a bubble all the way around you, really, really strong. And then you picture a white, bright disc above your head, and that represents your highest self. And as you picture it, it gets brighter and brighter and brighter. And as it gets brighter and brighter and brighter, it starts showering out silver sparks that fills up your entire aura. So I started doing that as well. And then in my readings, and this I learned, Sylvia Brown is hit or miss for me. I'm highly entertained by Sylvia Brown, and I've shared clients with Sylvia Brown, and I've had some clients say she was the best psychic they've ever seen, and I've had some clients say she was the worst psychic they've ever been to. So she definitely has a lot of detractors online. But in one of her books, she said one of the best ways to deal with a client in a reading is you send their energy up to the sun, you send your energy up to the sun. And then when you're getting their energy, and if they're getting any of your energy, it's been cleansed by this big light. So I
Okay.
started doing that. And that plus my closing down, that's kind of my housekeeping. I always do a tiny little clearing before a reading and just clear myself, clear my client for the highest, most accurate information possible. I have walked away with stuff, though. Even then, I can walk away with stuff, and then it requires a little bit more.
That is so cool that you shared that. So, why do you call it third eye champagne?
Okay, so when I started the business, I just started doing random readings, and I'm a writer, and I wrote 5 books, but no traction. I mean, it's very hard to get an agent, which I'm sure you know, as a writer yourself. It's very hard to get an agent just randomly. Like you just go to the slush pile and they don't read your stuff. And I don't know, honestly, I'm a great storyteller, but if somebody's looking for technical writing from me, I mean, I majored in it. It's good, but it's not. I am not, Joyce Carol Oates. Okay, I'm not Joan Didion. It's not there. But I was putting out these books. Nobody, and I'm like, how can I get people to read these books? I'm self-publishing. They're good. The stories are good. And I went and saw a reader. His name was Andrew Martin. And randomly, he was running a sale. I was like, I'm going to get the sale. And he said, nah, you need to be seen and heard. It was a life changer of a reading. You need to be seen and heard. And I went, okay, well, what am I supposed to do? And he goes, start a YouTube channel. I said, what? And what? Read my books on the YouTube? Like, that's silly. I'm not doing that. And he goes, well, what else do you do? And I go, well, I mean, I work as a psychic. And he goes, well, go on YouTube and just do readings. So I blew it off. And then 2 days later, I get a phone call from my cousin. Super randomly, she says, you should start a YouTube channel. All right. So the universe is talking. The universe is talking. I'm like, YouTube channel. Okay, that's the second time I've heard that. A third person says it to me the very next day, and I was like, okay, I get it. I will start the YouTube channel. So I start this YouTube channel. I don't know what to read on, but it was right after Trump had gotten elected, and I was like, that's a hot button issue. Let's read on that. So I start doing all these readings, and one night I was, and champagne is kind of my thing. I mean, I am a champagne drinker. It's my favorite thing. I would drink it whether it was alcoholic or not. I love a good cold glass of champagne. So I was drinking with a friend, and I jokingly said, if I ever start a business, because she would like to get readings, and I would get soused and then be like, fine, let me give you a reading. So I was doing all these kind of drunken readings for her. And one day I said, if I ever start a business, I'm going to call it Third Eye Champagne. So that's where it
We
came
got the
from.
name.
And
Wow, that's so
probably,
awesome.
yeah, like a year and a half later, I was like, that's what I'm going to call it. That's the name right there. So that's how I got it.
So, how can people find you?
They can find me everywhere. Honestly, all you have to Google is Kirsten Langston. Just make sure you're spelling my name right. But I am on every social media, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram at Third Eye Champagne. So you can Google Third Eye Champagne. You can find me at thirdeyechampagne.com. That is my subscription website. So there you're going to find, I love that thing. That is my baby. That has been my project for the last several years. You will find over 600 videos that I have done in the last several years on every topic imaginable. You will find blog posts every single week on every topic imaginable. You have free tarot readings. You can do electronic tarot readings there. I designed that whole thing myself. So it's coming from me. It's not just some random AI generated thing. Everything comes from me. You will also find your astrology. I am not an astrologer, but I can do a sun sign. I can do a general sun sign horoscope, which are, those are for fun mostly. If you want a real reading, you got to see somebody like Leslie. But you will find all of that there. I also have a spell book. Those spells work. They scare the hell out of me. I'm the one that designed them and they scare the hell out of me because they work so well. So all of that is sitting at thirdeyechampagne.com. That's also where you can find out where to get a reading from me. And then I also have, and this is one of my favorite things on this website, and Leslie is on this page, it is a preferred practitioner page because it is hard for people to find reputable, good psychics, astrologers, healers, what have you. So I have a list of people there for you. And Leslie is one of the astrologers on there. It's platinum certified by yours truly. So if you're ever looking for somebody, Reiki, SRT, energy healing, astrologers, psychics, Akashic record readers, all of that kind of stuff, they're reputable people. They're people I know. They're people I trust. They're people I've gotten readings from. That is one of the best resources I've ever created.
Well, I think you're awesome. I hope a lot of my friends and clients and family, whoever, will call you for a reading because I think it's so helpful. And I think working with her, as we said earlier, it's a really great way to speed up your knowledge and to bring peace into your life. I mean, I think that's what this is all about. How can we bring comfort? I call astrology the language of compassion. I think both of us are all about trying to make life easier for people because it can be really hard, especially right now.
Yeah.
So you are smart, you are kind, and you're really good at what you do. And to me, that's like you need those three things to be able to help people. So I'm thrilled to have you in my life. I know I'm going to call you next time I have some drama going on, but hopefully I won't anytime soon, but it does come in waves, so you never know. But it was just great to talk to you.
It was, Leslie, thank you so much for having me. I'm so glad you reached out. It's insane to me because I've been watching you forever. I was like, really? That's so cool. I love it. But you know what? I'm very happy to connect with you because I think you are amazing. And I just have to say before we go, I just have to say, like, you are such a gifted astrologer. It's insane. Like, so gifted, such a gifted healer that I wish you had reached out sooner, but divine timing. Like, you're amazing. You're absolutely amazing.
Yeah, no, I feel really honored to have the gifts that I've got. So I work really hard at protecting them too. Very careful about who I have around me, really careful about what I have to do, things that feel like they're in alignment with who I am and not, we talked about this before about when I try to do marketing, like it's not a good thing for me. I just have to do what I do and reach out to people that I genuinely, like reaching out to you, I genuinely think you're amazing. So that's how I can grow. I have to stay very clear with that.